You've been a dispatcher for 11 years. You stop hearing the fear after a while. The crying, the screaming, the bargaining. It all becomes data, address, nature of emergency, units to dispatch. Last night, something came through my headset that I cannot explain. It was 2:47 in the morning, graveyard shift, the kind of quiet where you can hear the fluorescent tubes buzzing above your desk. My board lit up, incoming call. But the caller ID field was blank, not unknown, not restricted, just empty, like the number had never existed. I picked up. Standard greeting, 911. What is your emergency? A man, his voice, calm, almost pleasant. He said, quote, "You should check the lock on your back door, Rachel." My name is Rachel. I never gave it to him. I told him I needed his location. He laughed. Not a threatening laugh. More like he was correcting a child who did ask the wrong question. He said, quote, "I am not calling about my house. I am calling about yours." My hands went cold. Not the expression, literally cold, like the blood had been pulled out of my fingers. I live alone. ID locked up at 10, same as every night. Deadbolt, chain, the latch on the basement door. I'm careful because my job teaches me what people do to each other. I asked him what he wanted. He said, quote, "Right now your cat is sitting on the kitchen counter, the gray one. She is licking her left paw. I have a gray cat. Her name is Mabel, and she always sits on that counter when I'm not home." I muted my headset and pulled up the security app on my phone. The kitchen camera loaded. Mabel was on the counter, licking her left paw. I unmuted. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I told him the police were on their way. He said, quote, "They won't find me here. I'm not inside your house, Rachel. I'm inside the call." I didn't understand what that meant. Not then. He kept talking, describing my living room. The stack of unread books on the side table. The coffee mug I'd left in the sink. The crack in the ceiling above the couch that I'd been meaning to get fixed for 2 years. Every detail was correct. Exactly correct. Exactly correct. I did something I've never done on a live call. I started typing into the dispatch system while keeping him on the line. I flagged my own address, sent a silent alert to the patrol unit in my sector. Officer Davis responded. Good man. 12 years on the force. He radioed in that he was 3 minutes out. The caller said, quote, "Officer Davis should slow down. The intersection at Maple and 5th is icy tonight." I froze. Davis hadn't broadcast his route. He hadn't mentioned which streets he was taking. I looked at my screen. The caller's line was still active. No audio waveform, no data. Just a flat green line that shouldn't have been carrying a voice at all. 40 seconds later, Davis radioed in. He'd hit a patch of black ice at Maple and 5th, slid through a stop sign. No injuries, but his cruiser was in a ditch. The caller knew. I asked him, "What do you want from me?" He said, quote, "I want you to understand what it feels like. To have someone watching, to know they can see everything and do nothing to stop it." I thought about all the calls I'd taken over the years. The people begging for help while I sat in my chair, safe behind the screen, typing their worst moments into a database. He said, quote, "Every night you listen to people dying. Have you ever wondered who listens to you?" Then he described my bedroom. The photograph on my nightstand. My mother's face, smiling, taken 3 weeks before the car accident that killed her. That photo isn't on my phone. It isn't online. It exists in one place in the world. On that nightstand, face down. He told me the frame was slightly crooked, tilted to the left, the way I always leave it after I look at it. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. Diane was across the room. I waved her over. She put on a headset and listened for about 10 seconds. She heard nothing. Static, then silence. Then the call dropped. The system log showed the call duration as 0 seconds. According to our records, it never happened. There was no incoming number, no routing data, no audio file saved. But I have the call in my headset. I can still hear it. Every word. I drove home at sunrise. Every lock was engaged. Mabel was asleep on the counter. The coffee mug was in the sink. The books were stacked. The photo of my mother was face, down on the nightstand, but it was tilted to the right. My daughter Lily is 4 years old, and she has an imaginary friend named Mr. Hollow. Kids have imaginary friends. I know that is normal. Child development books say it is healthy, a sign of a creative mind, but Mr. Hollow started leaving notes. The first one appeared 3 weeks ago, a piece of construction paper folded in half. Sitting on the kitchen table, inside, in crayon, it said, quote, "Thank you for the cookies. Love, Mr. Hollow." I thought Lily had written it. For year olds writing wobbly letters, backwards sometimes. This was wobbly, childlike. I praised her and put it on the fridge. The second note came 4 days later, same paper, same folding. It said, quote, "Lily told me about your bad dream. I'm sorry about the water. I hadn't told anyone about the dream. Not my husband, not my therapist. I'd woken up at 3 in the morning, gasping, dreaming I was trapped in a flooding basement. The water was up to my chest, cold and brown. I asked Lily who wrote the note. She said Mr. Hollow did. She said he writes things down because he has trouble speaking. That is when I really looked at the handwriting. I'm a forensic accountant. I examine documents for a living. I know letter formation, pressure patterns, the unconscious habits that make handwriting unique. The notes were written in crayon, deliberately wobbly. But underneath the wobble, the letter structure was mine. The way the lowercase curls at the bottom, the way the T's cross slightly to the left, the loop on the G that never quite closes. I told myself it was coincidence. Children mimic their parents. Lily had seen me write. She was copying my style without knowing it. But Lily is 4. She can barely hold a pencil. She can't spell the word quote dream. I compared the notes side by side with my own writing. A grocery list, a birthday card I'd sent my sister. The letter forms were identical, not similar, identical. The same forensic software I use at work confirmed it. Same writer, same hand. The third note was on my pillow. It said, quote, "You used to talk to me too. Before you forgot. Before they told you I wasn't real." I read it 3 times and my hands started shaking. Because when I was 5, I had an imaginary friend. His name was Mr. Hollow. I haven't thought about that name in 30 years. I never told Lily. I never told anyone. I'd completely forgotten until I read those words on the paper. I set up a camera in Lily's room. A small one, clipped to the bookshelf, pointing at her bed. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that the notes would stop. They didn't stop. The 4th note appeared on the bathroom mirror, taped there with a strip of scotch tape. It said, quote, "I can see you watching through the little camera. Please don't take it down." I like being seen. I reviewed the footage from that night. At 2:14 a.m., I walk into Lily. Ice room, my eyes are open, but they re-empty. The way sleepwalkers look. I am wearing my nightgown. My hair is down. I walk to Lily's desk. I sit down. I pick up a crayon and I write. I write for 11 minutes. Then I fold the paper, walk to the bathroom, tape it to the mirror, and go back to bed. I don't remember any of it. I watched myself write. My own hand moving across the paper, my own face blank and focused, and I could not remember a single second of it. My husband thinks I am stressed. He says, "Sleepwalking happens when you are overtired." He bought me melatonin and a white noise machine. I haven't told him about the camera footage. I haven't told him that the handwriting is mine, because I don't know how to say it without sounding insane. I started sleeping in the guest room with the door locked. I told my husband I had insomnia and didn't want to wake him. The truth is, I was afraid of what I'd do if I fell asleep. It didn't help. The notes kept appearing on the fridge. Inside my purse, once folded into the pocket of Lily's school backpack. Last night I found the fifth note. It was inside my coat pocket, folded small. I don't know when it was put there. It said, quote, "Lily is a good listener. She'll remember me. Even when she grows up, even when they tell her I'm not real, I'll wait." I sat on the floor of the hallway and I cried. Not because I was afraid, because some part of me, some deep and buried part, recognized the words, the phrasing, the rhythm. They were the same words I used to say to myself when I was 5, alone in my room, talking to someone no one else could see. Mr. Hollow was never imaginary. He was patient. And now he has my hand. The listing said, house sitter needed, 2 weeks, rural property, all expenses covered, generous compensation, no interview required, no references, just an email address and a set of instructions, sent as a PDF. I should have known something was wrong, but I was 3 months behind on rent, and the compensation was $4,000 for 2 weeks of sitting in a house. The house was at the end of a gravel road in upstate New York. White colonial, 2 stories. A wraparound porch with rocking chairs that looked like they'd been placed there that morning. The lawn was mowed. The hedges were trimmed. Flower boxes under every window, filled with marigolds that hadn't wilted despite the October cold. I parked, killed the engine, and sat there for a minute, because something about the house felt occupied. The key was under the 3rd stone from the left, exactly where the instructions said it would be. The door opened smooth, no creak, no resistance inside. The house was immaculate. Hardwood floors polished to a shine, not a speck of dust on the banister. The air smelled like lemon polish and something underneath it. Something sweet and faint, like flowers left too long in a vase. The fridge was stocked. Milk, eggs, bread, fresh vegetables. The expiration dates were current. Someone had shopped recently. The instructions were specific. Keep the house clean. Water the plants. Do not move the photographs. Do not enter the basement. Eat whatever you like. That first day, I followed every rule. I watered the ferns in the living room. I made myself a sandwich and ate it at the kitchen table. The photographs bothered me. A family of 4, father, mother, 2 children, a boy and a girl. They were everywhere, on the mantle, on the walls, on every surface. The photos were old, not antique, but old enough. The clothes were from the early 90s. The colors had that washed out quality of film prints. In every photo, the family was smiling, standing in front of this house, sitting at this table, playing in this yard. They looked happy, perfectly, impossibly happy. On the second night, I woke up at 3 a.m., not because of a smell. Roast chicken, rosemary, butter, the unmistakable smell of a family dinner being cooked. I lay in the guest bed and listened. I heard the oven door open, heard the clink of plates being set on a table, heard chairs being pulled out. Then I heard voices, low, conversational. A man says voice, a woman says voice, 2 children laughing. I told myself it was the pipes. Old houses make sounds. The walls settle, the furnace kicks on. My brain was patterned, matching, turning random noise into something familiar. I pulled the blanket over my head like a child and waited for it to stop. It stopped at 3:47 a.m. exactly. The sounds cut off like someone had pressed a switch. In the morning, I went downstairs. The kitchen was clean. The table was set for 4 plates, forks, glasses of water, napkins folded into triangles, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. Steam was still rising from it. I didn't detach it. I backed out of the kitchen and called the email address from the listing. It bounced. Address not found. I searched the county records on my phone. The property was owned by a trust, the Henderson Family Trust. Robert Henderson, Margaret Henderson, Thomas Henderson, age 9, Sarah Henderson, age 6. They died in a car accident on Route 12 in November 1994. All 4 of them, 30 years ago. I sat in my car with the engine running. I should have left. Every rational part of me said to drive away and never come back. But I didn't, because the food was warm, the house was clean, and some part of me wanted to know what would happen if I stayed. That night I stayed awake. I sat at the top of the stairs with a flashlight and my phone recording. At 3 a.m. the kitchen light turned on. I heard the oven, the pots, the clinking of dishes, the same sounds as the night before, but this time I could see. The kitchen was empty. The light was on. The oven was on. The food was assembling itself on the counter. A knife was cutting vegetables. No hand was holding it. Then the table chairs pulled themselves out, 4 of them, and the plates floated down from the cabinet and set themselves in place. And then I heard them, not from the kitchen, from the hallway below me, footsteps, small ones, a child's voice saying, "I am hungry. Mommy, I couldn't TC them, but I could hear them walking past the bottom of the stairs. Into the kitchen, sitting down, the sound of forks on plates, a man's voice saying grace. They ate for 47 minutes. I timed it. Every night, the same duration, the same meal, the same grace. On the 5th night, something changed. The woman's voice said, clear as day, quote, "We have a guest upstairs. We should set a 5th plate." A 5th plate on the table. I watched it slide out from the cabinet and settle into place. The man's voice said, quote, "They all come down when they re-ready. They always do." I left the next morning. I took nothing. I touched nothing more than I had to. I drove to the nearest town and checked into a motel. The money arrived in my account that afternoon. $4,000. From an account I could trace. I looked at the recording on my phone. The kitchen light turning on, the knife cutting by itself, the plates setting themselves. But the audio was different from what I remembered. On the recording, there were no voices, no footsteps, no child saying they were hungry, just the sound of my own breathing. And underneath it, very faint, a woman humming a lullaby. Sometimes at 3 a.m. I wake up, and for just a moment, I smell roast chicken and rosemary. And I wonder if they're still waiting for me to come down to dinner.